Perfect.
We are live.
Great. Okay, thanks everybody for joining us for the special called City Council meeting. We'll start off with roll call. Just say here when I call your name. Amy Patillo.
Here.
Sarah Hudson.
Here.
Kevin Massengill.
Here.
Wendy Hundley.
Here.
And Buck Shapiro.
Here.
All right, thanks everybody. We will open up public comments at 2:03. I've got hand raised from Alec Robinson. Go ahead, Alec.
Hi, thank you. Alec Robinson, 4818 Rollingwood Drive. I just wanted to express my concern over the email that was distributed promoting the Milk and Cookies coffee shop in Rollingwood Park. The contents of this email contain an official looking city document with incorrect information on the size of the proposed establishment. Additionally, the picture that was used to promote the concept of the Milk and Cookies location is in River Oaks. It's a wonderful looking photograph, but the residents should know that this was establishment sits on a big lot in the commercial district near River Oaks, not in the middle of one of their community parks. And this is true, by the way, for all current Milk and Cookies locations. I believe the email should have made these points clear if we want council to be an honest broker of public debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec. Just to be clear, the reference there is not to a city email or newsletter. That is in reference to Council Member Wendy Hundley's personal email notification. Is that fair?
It came from a City of Rollingwood email address, an official City of Rollingwood email address. But that is the email I'm referring to.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Is there anybody else joining us today that would like to speak for public comments? Anything that is not otherwise on the agenda? I don't see any hands, so we'll close our public comments at 2:05. Move to the consent agenda.
I move passage of the consent agenda.
We have a motion from Gavin. Do we have a second, council?
I second. Sorry, I was on mute.
All right. Thank you, Buck. Okay. Any comments on this consent agenda? Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
I was going to move to postpone voting on the consent agenda until our regularly called meeting, since we got a significant number of substantive amendments from one council member about 30 minutes before this meeting. And
Okay.
I have some things that, if we're going to get into the substance of comments that were made and make adjustments, I have a number of things I would like added as well, including adding, Mayor Dyson, you asking for us to remain within the scope of an agenda item, which then precluded any of us responding to a comment that was made by a neighbor. And I thought that was a helpful thing you did, but it wasn't included in the minutes. And there are things that I would have said in response to some communications that were made that were outside the scope of an agenda item.
Okay. Point well made. Council, any other comments, discussion on the consent agenda and the motion on the table?
I also would appreciate removing the minutes and having them on the regular agenda, because I think that the way that the minutes were changed takes out of context what was said. And so if we do want to make those changes, then I think that we should include all of the substantive data as Amy Patillo said, Councilmember Patillo. So I'd appreciate if we brought that part back to the next regular city council meeting.
Okay. I think this is probably the most discussed consent agenda I've ever been privy to. Is there any other thoughts or comments on this before I call for the vote? No? Okay. Amy Patillo, you're up first on my screen.
Oh, we're voting to approve. I'm
Well,
voting.
unless the council members that made the motion want to withdraw the motion. The motion for consideration now is passage of the consent agenda. The only item on the consent agenda are the minutes that both you and Wendy referenced.
So my vote is no. Oh, go ahead, Gavin, sorry.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Buck, you good with that too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
While we're
well,
on here though, just to clarify, so, and we are operating under Robert's Rules of Order, correct?
Yes.
Just checking. Okay, thanks.
Have I violated Robert's Rules of Order?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. In that case, do we have a motion? Or is anybody interested in taking action on the consent agenda?
Do we need
If
to
not,
postpone, or will it automatically postpone to the next meeting?
if we don't take any action on it, then we should be able to move along, and the minutes will still be in need of consideration at subsequent meetings. Okay. Sorry, did that answer your question sufficiently?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. All right. In that case, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Not hearing any additional action there. Discussion of possible action on resolution authorizing the execution of a financing agreement for the purpose of procuring vehicles and related equipment. In strict adherence to Robert's rules, we have a motion, council, to open discussion. Or Chief, I tell you, I'm sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to start discussion, and then if we need to amend the motion or pull it. But yes, for Robert's Rules of Orders, we do have to have a motion for discussion. So I appreciate us starting to move in that direction. I would move to approve a resolution authorizing the execution of a financing agreement for the purpose of procuring vehicles and related equipment.
We have a
Second.
motion. We have a motion from Wendy and a second from Amy.
I raise
floor-
objection to consideration of the question on the grounds that the council has already directed staff to bring this forward during budget discussions, and this measures a level of importance that should be brought during the budget process. This is a non-debatable motion, and it requires a vote. But thank you for adhering to the Robert's Rules of Order.
So will you explain, so do we have to vote on my motion, or how does this work with the
Yeah,
Robert's Rules of Order?
Supersede your motion.
It supersedes, okay, so what is the
That's
motion?
right.
Objection to consideration of the question as a whole.
Whether or not we should be discussing this at all right now, Wendy,
Okay, thank you.
of course.
So do we have discussion, or do we just go straight to voting on it?
Just go straight to voting. It's called a test vote, and then I'll decide what I'm gonna do next.
Amy Patillo,
No.
Wendy Hundley,
No,
Sarah Hudson.
Okay, can we get clear what we're voting on at this point? We're voting on Gavin's motion that we should not be taking consideration of
should-
this at this time.
That's
Right.
correct.
Yes,
Gavin Maskell,
Yes.
Buck Shapiro.
No.
Okay, well, the noes have it. So now, Gavin, now we do have Wendy and Amy's, Wendy's motion, seconded by Amy. It's up for discussion.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
So,
so
Gal-
I would like to know more about, like what, what, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Amy, but I'd love to hear Gavin's budget liaison take on this and the reason for his motion so that we can discuss that. So I don't really have anything to add right now. I'm curious to know more about what Gavin's thinking.
I mean, this was discussed in April and we instructed staff and the chief to bring it back later when we had more time to digest it. When I had more time to digest it, that obviously was not an answer that I guess carried the day. And so here we are at a special meeting voting on it, and I haven't had time to digest it, and I'll be voting no today. So that's where I am.
So that's point we'll raise. Amy and Buck, you guys help with liaising with the police. Can you are you inclined to provide some insight as to why we're talking about this afternoon rather during budget season?
So I can speak to that, and Buck can as well.
I can as well.
Go ahead.
Great.
Buck, do you want to start?
Yeah, so basically the reason, and I was on the same page as everybody else, is waiting until budget season, but there's always some things that happen and make you have to pivot last minute that you don't necessarily want to, but it's probably the wise decision to do so. And that has more to do with just the ongoing maintenance of the vehicles. So we can kick the can down the road another 4 or 5 months, but the amount of money we're spending right now on maintenance is way out of budget and is really going to vehicles that we're going to retire anyway. So as opposed to spending the money now and then replacing the vehicles in 4 or 5 months, it just seemed like it made more sense to just go ahead and replace the vehicles. It's just it's almost like you're throwing good money after bad if you don't move forward with replacing them.
I would add, I agree with Buck, and my intention, because I was the first one to say that I thought we should have a special called meeting on the issue, knowing that we had moved it to budget season, but that out of respect for our current budget and not wanting to spend money on maintenance that is going to go into vehicles that are then going to get replaced, it seemed like it was worth having an actual council discussion now before we end up with one vehicle operational, or we end up putting a lot of money into maintenance of a vehicle that is going to get replaced. So Gavin, to your point, this was intended to raise an issue based on new information that we felt like was impacting the current budget process and not intended to override all of our previous decision to move towards the next budget process. But we had new information and it seemed relevant.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, council, any additional discussion? Go ahead, Sarah.
So there is no recommendation provided or justification for how many cars we should be considering purchasing. And there's proposals in there for 2, 3, or 4 police cars and a utility truck. So that to me kind of goes to Gavin's point of we don't even have the information to assess what the budget impact would be, to look at how we would pay for this, to see, what the impact on the current budget would be. There's doesn't seem like there's enough information to fully assess the impact of this right now.
Well, I don't think that we need to buy 3 or 4 cars and everything else, but I do think there's an immediate need to replace at least 1, if not 2 of our vehicles. And obviously there is going to be a budget impact, or there's going to be an impact to our budget next year, I mean, we've kind of been kicking the can down the road on this for a while. So it's whether we do it now or we do it then, we're going to have to address it either way. I thought it was more fiscally responsible to just go ahead and address it now, as opposed to spending a bunch of money on maintenance that you're really not getting back, and you're gonna have to go ahead and buy a new car anyways this summer or early fall. But yes, I do agree with you. I know there's a bunch of proposals in here, but I think we just need to do the minimum at this time.
And we bought a police vehicle last time, or did we buy the truck? We've bought 2 vehicles in the last 2 budget cycles.
Mhm.
So we have at least 2 new vehicles out there.
Council, would it be helpful? Sorry to interrupt, Amy. Well, would it be helpful to hear some context from the chief or from Amber?
Yes.
Yes.
So I tell you what, Chief, I'll let you speak to the needs of the department, and then Amber, if you wouldn't mind providing some background as to the needs of Public Works. Chief, go ahead.
Thank you, distinguished council members. First of all, I really appreciate your time. I know everyone's busy and this is a special meeting. To get to Councilman Massengill's point, that is exactly what my intention was. My intention was to introduce this concept of financing, make awareness to the state of the fleet, and then revisit this when budget talks came around. Unfortunately, we have 2 vehicles that are really in horrible shape. I would not consider them to be police rated vehicles in their current condition. One is going to need a new transmission. We are already over our $10,000 maintenance budget. This is going to require at least $5,000, and there's some other issues as well that we haven't even factored in. That's just for the transmission. And we've already spent $5,000 on this car this year. That took half of our maintenance budget just for this one car, and we're going to put another $5,000 in it. The other thing is to make an understanding. I think, we think of buying a car at a car lot. If you budget it, then we go and we buy the car. It took us a year to get the last car, the brand new car. So if the cars are on the lot where we buy them, you're still looking at 3 to 6 months before we'll have that car. And that's if there is a car. If they have to order the car especially for us, we're going to be waiting over a year. And if we wait till October, then all the other cities are going to have their budget monies at the same time as well. So there could be many, many months of waiting because it's going to take a month to approve this financing deal before we get the monies. It would take months to get. So we deal with Cap Fleet. They do not have in stock all the equipment we need. They don't want to carry that kind of inventory because every agency has different types of needs. So they're going to have to order all that equipment and they're going to have to do the installation. And again, that's if they have the car on the lot. So we have a car that's down. We got one that may go down, and we could wait a year or more to get cars in service. It's my responsibility as the chief of police to make sure we have a fleet so we can respond to any emergency that our citizens or our community needs. And right now I've got 2 cars that are questionable and a third that's in sort of getting to that point. To the point of the multiple quotes, I think that was just to be illustrative so that you could kind of see what different finance packages would be available. There will be no budgetary implications for this fiscal year because the payments won't begin for a year from when we sign any contract. And then you can see whichever option the council likes. If they do, then you see what that amount is. And that's what it is for the next term, 4 or 5 years, whatever we choose to finance. So you know exactly, it's a perfect budgeting mechanism. You know exactly what that cost is going to be. And we're locking in prices now. We're seeing inflationary pressures on everything. Cars are going up, metal's going up, all the components, all the aftermarket equipment that we need to put on, all those prices are going up. We'd be locking that in now. We'd be taking advantage of it. Some extremely low interest rates, having warranted cars that are going to serve us for years to come. And then we can also, next budget year, we can reduce our maintenance budget. So I think when you look at some of these factors, I just think it's prudent that because again, if we say we're going to order cars now, we're not going to have them anytime soon. So the longer we wait, the more problematic that is, and the more chance of the other units going down. And we literally have no money to fix them. As Councilman Shapiro suggested, I don't know why we'd want to keep putting large sums, thousands of dollars into the existing fleet, particularly the older cars. So I also have invited Drew Whittington. He's on the call if anyone wants to speak to him. He does the financing for numerous municipalities, and thank you. Thank you for attending. If you have any questions on that, but it's fairly straightforward. You have a set amount and you make those payments every year. So again, from a budgeting perspective, knowing what the implication is going to be, it'll be that exact amount for the duration of, our obligation. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to entertain it. But again, that was never my intention to just, spring this all of a sudden, but I felt, I needed to reach out. I reached out to Councilman Shapiro and Patillo because, they are sort of our police liaisons, and kind of just informed them of the state of affairs. So, being emergency responders, I mean, we need to have this, we need to make sure we have a fleet. And again, even if we got a green light right now, we're not gonna have cars tomorrow.
Thank you, Chief. Amber, would you mind providing a little bit of context around the utility truck for the Public Works Department?
Sure. So during the winter storm, the truck that usually pulls the generator was not equipped to pull the generator through the rolling hills. And so we wanted to get a truck that could perform that function. I think Carrie has also asked for a winch on the front. So if the crew needs to open manholes, they have a tool to do that rather than their backs. Also, it's also going to have directional flashing lights on the back. So if we need to close down Bee Cave Road, we can tell them what direction they need to go. And the little Ford Ranger is an 07. We've been maintaining it. We've got 3 Public Works folks who use all 3 trucks. We can't ask them to use their personal vehicles because TML will not provide insurance coverage. So it'd be a liability. And so it's starting to overheat. And so
the little truck has a coolant leak.
The little truck has a coolant leak. And so to get some of the benefits at the same time that because this is for this, we get this interest rate for over $100,000. Isn't that right, Chief? And so we thought we would just, since we know this is a need as well, we would tag on to this request.
Okay, thank you, Amber. Council, there's a fair amount of context. Do you have additional questions or comments? If not, I'd ask that we see about a motion to continue.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there a reason that we need to vote on this today and we can't wait until the next council meeting that would give Gavin some more time to review and get comfortable with and have all of his questions answered before we vote?
That's an excellent
I'm fine
question.
with that.
Y'all have the votes. I'm voting no, but y'all can outvote me. You've got the votes today if you want.
I don't like that.
I don't either. I mean, I feel like if we need more time to review it, that I'm willing to withdraw my motion and bring it back at the next regular city council meeting if that would be preferable. But I do understand the need, and I appreciate the discussion happening today, because this probably is something that needed a little bit more discussion and context. So it's I wasn't sure what the reason for the special called meeting is, but I do think I appreciate that Chief Brady's reached out to the liaisons, that there's a need, that there's incentive financially for interest rates to possibly group these projects together, which is what we ask our administrative personnel to do, to be financially responsible with our budget. And so I don't want to push anything through today because we polled and we have maybe the votes, but I do think it's it's worth discussing more and then possibly bringing back to the next council meeting if you feel like that might give you more time, Gavin, to look through this proposal.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate all that. Chief, Amber, Mr. Whittington, is there any reason why the potential opportunities that are being discussed today couldn't be discussed in or the situation would change in 3 weeks outside of, typical risk of moving markets and that kind of thing? Is this a one-time bite at this apple?
Hi, y'all. I'm Drew with Government Capital. Thank you all for letting me, I was going to say come out here, but I'm not really there. So I'm in Fort Worth. But to be exact, for 3 weeks, the race will be the same. One of the things we like to do is put our best foot forward and honor the race that we give. So we can definitely wait for 3 weeks.
Would you be able to,
any major market movements?
would you be able to hold off or at least hold this rate constant through June 16th?
I can do my best. I can answer that way.
Okay. Well, here's what we really want you to do. Hold this rate constant through June 16th, unless we can get a better rate, in which case we want you to give us a better rate on June 16th.
No, it's not able to do that. I'm just kidding.
Right on.
Just kidding.
Well, it's classic cake and eat it too. But by the sound of it, there is some level of flexibility here, so we don't absolutely have to make this decision today. Is that a fair enough statement, Drew, from a financing standpoint?
From a financing standpoint, no. But like the chief said, because of the rising costs, not only with the steel and everything else, but the interest rates, if you've seen the gas pumps lately, it is rising. So I can't say for certain, but I can do my best for sure.
I appreciate it, Drew. I'm keenly aware of where our financial markets are going. And I'm also keenly aware of all kinds of delays we are having getting cars in the hands of purchasers, vehicles in the hands of purchasers. Okay, well,
especially customized cars in the hands of purchasers. The delay times for even small things right now are pretty extreme.
You bet.
Yeah.
So with that, council, you do have a motion on the table. Unless Councilmember Hunley is going to withdraw, I will go ahead and call for a vote on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did withdraw my motion, but I maybe didn't make it clear enough. But I said I'd be willing to withdraw my motion to bring it back next month if that would offer Gavin. But Gavin didn't respond to that, whether or not that I would like to just hear from Gavin. If this is a non-starter, don't even want to hear about it next month, then maybe we should vote on it. But if it's something that we're willing to talk about more and explore the need for, then I think we either have the conversation today or we have it at the next council meeting. So,
well, Gavin, what say you? You just had a council member throw you a lifeline to win another vote to your side. You want to take it, or do you want to go ahead and cast it now?
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea in April, and in 4 days, I've got all the time in the world to dig through this. So
you got it.
I would.
Okay, council, I applaud your cooperative spirit. With that, no action is going to be taken. That is the end of our regular scheduled programming. With that, I'll see about everybody good with adjournment. Just a thumbs up will get you there. Right on. Okay, guys, we are adjourned at 2:31. Thank you all very much for your time on a Thursday afternoon.
Thank you, council.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.